What up, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of Gator Glass Art. Now, I had something planned on the torch, but for the filming I had some technical difficulties, and it's also extremely hot out, so I'm going to opt out of that this week. For this week's episode, I'm going to be showing you my whole glass setup, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alright, so the video overall will encompass the general tools and supplies needed to start blowing glass. Now, my setup I would like to think is pretty advanced, so I'm not going to go over everything that I have, but I'll at least show you what you need to get started. So let's jump right on in. Alright, so the most obvious thing is the torch, and so this is the torch that I have here. It's a GTT Mirage. I probably wouldn't recommend this for beginner torch. It's around 1,800 bucks, and then all the accessories and whatnot, but I've had this for 2 years now. Absolutely love it. I had a Red Max before, and that was the torch that I worked on for probably 3 to 4 years. So, and even professionals that do this full time use Red Max. So, it just depends on finding what you like. The next thing that is connected to the torch are the hoses. Now, I have these oxygen and propane hoses. This is covered in a Kevlar sleeve just in case any glass falls on it. It won't burn a hole through the line. But the propane is the fuel, and then the oxygen is the accelerant. So that is how you get that blue hot flame. Alright, so this is the propane tank that I use. This is a 100-pound tank. I think it holds roughly like 25 gallons. But I just take this to like a U-Haul or a propane facility where they fill it up and charge me per gallon. If you go to a gas station, they will absolutely rip you off. It's like 20 bucks, 25 bucks to swap out a 5-pound propane tank in California. So, I went with this option. It definitely is much cheaper in the long haul. Before we move on, I want to point out two things. Aside from the hoses that you need, you also need a flashback arrestor as well as a regulator. Now, for oxygen, you don't necessarily need the flashback arrestor. I already had one, so I just said, why not? Might as well just put it on oxygen. But this prevents any flame from traveling back the hose and then into the tank, which would be a massive explosion. Regulator just gauges how much is in the tank as well as the PSI coming out to the torch. Alright, one of the most crucial things is safety in glass blowing. Now, the two things that are super crucial that I recommend you spending the money on right away is ventilation, which I have right here. That's a 1600 CFM attic fan. And to be quite honest with you, it's not my ideal ventilation. If I could, I would have a fume hood with the fan in the line pulling the air out as opposed to a window fan set up like this. Ventilation is crucial for, when you're melting glass, it will off-gas slightly. And so there's that, as well as when you're vaporizing silver and gold, that's super toxic when you're fuming. So good ventilation is definitely crucial. Second piece of equipment that is very important is eyewear. Now, I have these Aura lens split shades, so I've got the Didinium on the top with the shade 5s on the bottom. These are not cheap. I think they're like 400 bucks for a pair of glasses, but in my opinion, you only have one pair of eyes, so I'd rather spend the 400 bucks on a really good pair of glasses as opposed to buying a cheaper pair and having some problems later on down the line. Alright, another piece of equipment that you will need is the kiln. This will anneal the glass. And so inside you'll see it's coated with this white fluffy material. This is ceramic fiber. And so it just insulates the kiln, gets up to 1,050 degrees. Now this is a nice small compact model. It's like 20 pounds. I bought it used from a lady on the border of California and Oregon for like 400 bucks, so it was a steal. I actually just recently bought another kiln here. Alright, and this is the F240 Paragon. This thing is massive. It's got this sweet guillotine door. You'll notice that this is made out of kiln brick. So, it's definitely a preferred material. The only thing is that both the kiln brick and the ceramic fiber leaves a residue on the glass, so you just have to wipe the glass down after you pull it out. Alright, next thing you need are tools. And so it's just kind of an assortment of some tools that I have. We got some different grabbers. Got one of my marble molds here. Snippers, shears, reamers, bull push, tweezers. This is a joint forming tool. It's got the 14mm in there right now. And then just some more ground joint stuff. You know, I would say to start out, definitely get some tweezers, reamers, bull push, and a pair of grabbers. With the tools, I mean, you absolutely get what you pay for. You'll see on like Mountain Glass, there's the economy tools, and you know, they'll kind of work, but for instance, you know, I paid $180 for this pair of claw grabbers, and this is by far one of the nicest claw grabbers I've seen, with the largest range of motion, and you know, it just goes to show you get what you pay for. Alright, so here is my little station on the side. I've got a pair of non-serrated tweezers, so smooth on the inside, and then the candle wax to lubricate this. And so this is probably one of my most used tools. If I pop open a blow tube, or you know, any tube for that matter, I always use these to flare it out and give me that diameter that I want, so I can attach a blow tube or whatever it may be. And then underneath I just have my water bowl with all the broken glass in there. Alright, and then another huge important thing is the glass itself. And so as you can see here, I've got all sorts of prep or failures or whatnot just chilling up here. But yeah, you know, you're gonna be buying glass in rod and tubing. And so, you know, I just have this toolbox here with all, you know, assortment of glass, even, you know, some opals, gold, silver. But you know, try and section it off by color. Keep some knuckles in here. Some big pieces of tubing essentially, so when they're making it, these are the very ends of the tube pull. And then I got my dichro drawer right here. I have sheets and whatnot of glass, but this glass is super cool. Use this a lot. My Galaxy pendants or marbles, as well as my Vortex marbles. Alright, and this is my clear glass inventory, so I actually need to re-up pretty soon, but you know, all assortments of tube and rod. So this is like 15mm, 16mm rod. Here's like 30 something mil tubing, got 60 mil tubing. It's 50 down here. But I prefer just to buy a case and then store it like this, because as you'll see, even just leaving this kind of hanging out, just gets covered in dust. And cleaning a tube is a pain, to be honest. I mean, if I can just avoid that step and get to blowing glass, you know, that's how I prefer. So that's why I also have my colored glass in that toolbox. Alright, well, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. In the description, I'll leave links to everything that you need to get started. So this will be like Gator's prefabricated kit that you can just look at and reference all the tools and equipment needed to get the you know, glass blowing setup completed. And I'll exclude things like the oxygen tank and the propane tank. I mean, it's kind of a given. But as far as the glass blowing related stuff, hoses, regulators, flashback arrestors, tools, glass, all of that will be in the bio. But thank you. Have a great week.